The world held its breath as SpaceX's Starship Flight 11 roared to life on the launchpad at Starbase, Texas. A fiery pillar of controlled chaos erupted beneath the massive stainless steel rocket, shaking the very ground as it climbed toward the stratosphere. Cameras across the world captured every second, but what happened next, no one could have predicted. Elon Musk himself called it a turning point not just for SpaceX but for the entire human race. This wasn't just another test flight. This was the culmination of over a decade of engineering ambition, failure, learning, and sheer perseverance. Starship Flight 11 was more than a rocket, it was a dream made of steel and fire, humanity's ticket to Mars, the Moon, and beyond. For years, skeptics had called Musk's vision impossible. They said reusability at this scale couldn't be achieved. They said landing a 400-foot-tall spacecraft after orbital re-entry was fantasy. And yet, on this historic morning, Musk and his team were about to prove them all wrong. The countdown reached zero, and the 33 Raptor engines ignited with a synchronized fury, producing an unprecedented thrust. Even seasoned engineers in mission control couldn't hide their awe as the telemetry showed perfect performance. The flight's first stage, known as the Super Heavy Booster, carried the 165-foot Starship second stage toward orbit. Within minutes, separation occurred flawlessly, something that had taken years to perfect. But what made Flight 11 truly shocking was what came after. As Starship continued toward orbit, the Super Heavy Booster began its descent back to Earth. This time, SpaceX was attempting something no one had ever done before, a mid-air catch, using the colossal mechanical arms of the launch tower, known as Mechazilla. Previously, boosters had landed on drone ships or landing pads, but this was the first time SpaceX aimed to catch the returning rocket directly from the sky with mechanical arms. The entire world watched in suspense. Commentators fell silent as the booster descended through the atmosphere, its grid fins steering it precisely toward the tower. Flames burst from the engines as it slowed its descent, hovering momentarily over the pad. Then, in an astonishing moment that defied belief, Mechazilla's massive arms swung out and caught the 230-foot booster midair, locking it in place like a scene from a sci-fi movie. Cheers erupted in the control room. Engineers hugged, laughed, and cried all at once. Elon Musk, standing in front of the mission monitors, clenched his fists in triumph. "History," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "We just caught a booster." The significance of that moment rippled through the aerospace industry. Catching the booster meant SpaceX had effectively created a fully reusable orbital-class rocket system, a dream long sought by NASA, Roscosmos, and countless private companies. This single innovation could reduce the cost of space launches by up to 90%, making space travel accessible not just for governments but for commercial enterprises and even private citizens. But the surprises weren't over yet. While the world celebrated the booster catch, Starship's second stage continued its orbital journey. The massive ship, designed to carry 100 people or 150 tons of cargo, reached orbit smoothly. The telemetry data confirmed nominal engine performance and stable flight. Then, SpaceX revealed something no one outside the company had known. Flight 11 carried a prototype payload, a small autonomous rover designed to test future Mars surface deployment systems. At 10:24 a.m. Texas time, Starship executed a flawless orbital maneuver, deploying the rover into low Earth orbit. For the first time, SpaceX demonstrated its ability to launch, deploy, and recover a fully reusable system capable of carrying significant payloads. Moments later, Musk took to X, formerly Twitter, to post a simple message. "We did it. The future is reusable." As the hours passed, Starship prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission, re-entry and landing. Every previous test had ended in failure or partial success. The enormous forces of atmospheric re-entry had destroyed prototypes in the past. But Flight 11 had been built with reinforced heat shields and adaptive flight controls that adjusted dynamically in real time. The team at Starbase monitored the data nervously as Starship plunged back into the atmosphere at nearly 17,000 miles per hour. Plasma trails lit up the sky, turning the spacecraft into a glowing comet visible across the Gulf of Mexico. Then came the descent burn, engines reigniting to slow the ship's fall. The nose dipped, the wings adjusted, and in a spectacular ballet of engineering, Starship flipped upright just 500 feet above the ground. Dust and flames filled the air as the engines throttled down, and then silence. The massive ship stood tall, perfectly balanced on the launch pad. It had landed safely. For a moment, no one spoke. The crowd at Starbase broke into thunderous applause, and Musk himself raised his arms, grinning from ear to ear. "Flight 11 is a success," shouted the flight director. "Starship is officially fully reusable." This achievement sent shockwaves through the aerospace world. NASA administrators congratulated SpaceX publicly, calling it the most significant step towards sustainable space exploration in modern history. Within hours, the European Space Agency and Japan's JAXA issued statements praising the flight. Even rival companies like Blue Origin and Rocket Lab expressed admiration, tinged, perhaps, with a hint of envy. The financial markets reacted instantly. SpaceX's valuation surged by billions, and Musk's announcement that Starship would begin regular cargo flights within the next 12 months sent investors scrambling. More importantly, he confirmed something that stunned even longtime followers. Starship Flight 11 wasn't just a test, it was carrying hardware for NASA's Artemis program. Parts of a lunar gateway module were on board, marking the first step in preparing for human return to the moon. Reporters crowded Musk at the post-flight press conference. He stood on the stage, wearing his signature black jacket and that familiar spark of ambition in his eyes. "What we did today," he said, "proves that Earth-to-orbit transport can be as routine as air travel. Starship isn't just a rocket, it's a system for building a future among the stars. We're not stopping at the moon. We're going to Mars. We're building a city there." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Flight 11 was proof that the impossible just takes a little longer. As the applause thundered, engineers released unseen footage from inside the Starship during flight, showing the cabin's stability, vibration dampening, and a new life support prototype designed for crewed missions. SpaceX revealed that the next 3 flights would test extended orbit durations and in-orbit refueling, key technologies for Mars travel. Across social media, people called it the Apollo moment of the 21st century. Scientists and engineers shared clips of the booster catch in disbelief. Memes flooded the internet, but beneath the humor was genuine awe. Humanity had just taken another leap toward becoming a multi-planetary species. In the following days, analysts began breaking down what made Flight 11 different. The new Raptor 3 engines had performed flawlessly, achieving record efficiency. The heat shield tiles, previously a source of failure, held perfectly. The guidance AI, nicknamed Argus, made microsecond corrections during re-entry, a feat previously considered impossible. Everything about this mission screamed progress. At SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, engineers were already preparing for Flight 12, which Musk hinted would attempt an orbital refueling demonstration, a critical step toward Mars missions. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Use one Starship to refuel another in orbit, allowing it to travel to other planets without the need for massive new rockets. While competitors were still designing partially reusable systems, SpaceX had moved the goalpost yet again. The cost of launching to orbit, which used to exceed $60 million per mission, could now drop below $5 million. Suddenly, the entire economics of space had changed. Private companies could afford to launch satellites, space hotels, or even exploration vehicles. A new space age had begun, not dominated by governments, but by innovation. Elon Musk later posted a short video message to the world. Standing in front of the recovered Starship, he said, "We've always looked up at the stars and wondered if we're alone. But the truth is, we've been alone because we've stayed here." Flight 11 changes that. "We're building the ships that will take life to other worlds." He ended with a line that immediately went viral. "The sky is no longer the limit." By evening, SpaceX employees gathered at Starbase for a quiet celebration. The engineers who had worked tirelessly through failures, SN8's explosion, SN10's hard landing, SN15's partial success, now watched as fireworks illuminated the Texas night above the fully intact Starship. Musk raised a glass of champagne and said, "To the people who refuse to give up, and to the future waiting for us out there." The event marked not just a technical victory but a philosophical one. It reminded humanity of what persistence and vision could achieve. For Musk, who had been mocked in the early 2000s for dreaming of Mars colonies, this was vindication. For the world, it was inspiration. Space was no longer a distant dream reserved for astronauts, it was now a destination for everyone. In the months that followed, nations began negotiating new agreements for lunar and Martian exploration. Universities launched new programs in space engineering. Children across the world built Starship models in classrooms, inspired by the images of the massive rocket standing proudly on its landing pad. Even critics admitted that Musk had changed the game forever. As night fell over Starbase, cameras captured one last image, the gleaming silver starship under a starlit sky, reflecting both Earth and the cosmos it aimed to conquer. It wasn't just another test flight. It was the moment humanity realized that space was open for business, and for dreams. SpaceX's Starship Flight 11 had done the impossible. It had changed everything.